everybody. Welcome to another episode of My Car Shop, episode 32 in the 47 Forward Street route. So you can see we've got the tarps all up and the room is all partitioned off. The heat's been on out here now for about an hour. And today could be the day. The weather is gorgeous out. The wind is a little bit more out of the south, so it's not coming in the door as much. So I'm not as concerned about dust getting in here as soon as I open the door and stuff getting in wet paint. I've got a lot of things to do. This morning I was busy. I had a bunch of work stuff to do, but I also was able to locate the new respirator for painting. The other one that I had has been in here a long time, several years, and I was concerned about gassing myself out. So I was able to pick one of those up this morning. I got more blue towels. I got a full gallon of paint prep. So I'm really happy. Local Auto Parts was able to set me up with everything I needed. Got some new paint cups. So the first thing I'm going to tackle here now is getting the seam sealer out and getting that put on these fenders where it belongs. I'm going to go over the fenders real quick with the Scotch-Brite again, make sure everything's good. But when I worked out here the other day, I'd gone over them and they were ready to paint. So I was just waiting on the weather. I think the weather's there today. It's a little bit later in the day than I wanted to be for this, but you got to make hay while the sun shines. And if I don't get them done today, I probably can tomorrow. I do have to get brakes put on my truck in the morning, but I think between today and tomorrow, we should see these parts turn red if everything be well and we don't run into any big problems. So let's get after it today. Let's get the seam sealer put on. Well, first, let's get over them with a Scotch-Brite one more time, check them out, and then let's get the seam sealer put in there so that can sit for an hour and dry before we start painting. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, so to let you see up close what we've done here with the seam sealer. I hadn't used this particular product before, so I had a few issues with it, but I got it all sorted out now, I think. So you can see how that just kind of fits in there. And the main objective is to keep the moisture from getting between that panel and the fender. Let's go over to the other one over here. Same thing, I did this one a little bit better because I had some more experience with the product, but they're going to look fine. I got to clean that other one up just a little bit with some 320 grit once it's dry, but overall I think they're going to look really nice, and the main thing is it keeps the water out. Okay, so the fenders are ready, the seam sealer's dried. Don't remember if I said or not, I had a little bit of problem with the seam sealer on the first fender because the product was a little different than I was used to in the past, and a little thicker, so had to do a little more cleanup on that one than I did on the passenger side fender, so it was the driver's side I did first. But we're good. I got it all cleaned up now. There was just some sloppage. I'm just cleaning the paint gun again, making sure everything is good here. I like to start out fresh and clean just to be 100% sure there's no issues here. I don't want any dirt in the paint. I had to make a decision. I called around a little bit, see if anybody had the hardener for the original clear coat that I used. The place where I bought it doesn't carry it anymore, but he's going to see if he can get some. But I have such a limited window of time right now that I decided I'm not waiting. I'm just going to go ahead and use the quick clear that I used on the tail lights and the rear bumper. Not the best scenario in the world, but I just want to get it done while I have this perfect day and I have the time. With our state opening back up, it's being as we do IT, things are getting a lot busier, and never know what we're running into from day to day at this point. So I have the time, the weather's right, there's no wind, going for it. So there we go. So this should take me less than probably an hour to get the oh, that's nice. Take me an hour to get the base coat down on there, 3 coats. Then I got to let it sit for an hour or 2, and then we'll get the clear coat started, and that should take me an hour to do 2 or 3 coats of that, I would think. 15-20 minute flash time between. So I would think within 3 hours here we should have these fenders done, barring any catastrophes. With painting, you never know what you're going to run into, so it is what it is. I've got to do a couple other things like drain my water traps over there and make sure that I don't have any moisture in the air lines. I got a moisture snake that I use. I'm going to put in the line. And like I said, I'm cleaning the gun right now just to be sure everything is good there. So once I get all this done, we'll get moving forward on it. So it'll probably take me another half an hour to get ready. All right, well, everything's ready. I've got the floor watered down. I've got to open the mask up and put that together. The gun's clean. The base coat is mixed. The parts are all wiped down again. And here we go. Let's make some red. Let's do this. Alright, so the first coat of base went on there pretty good. That's just basically a glue coat, but everything's looking good. There's a few dark spots from the gray primer. I'm going to go back, and when I come back in before I do the next coat, I'll hit those just there's a little more material. So now that this is on there, there'll be 2 more coats of base, and that'll be done. Then I'll have to dry for a couple of hours. So this has got to sit for a while till that all hazes out and gets dry looking, and then we'll come back and hit it with another coat. Okay, so got a couple issues here. We got a few fish eyes in there, and it's been so long since I painted big parts. I got a couple runs, so this is as far as we go today. I got to let this dry overnight, go back, sand things down a little bit, sand out a couple of runs, and then I'll rebase them one more time tomorrow and they'll be ready to clear. So one of the things about painting that I've learned is when you run into a problem, it's time to stop, wait, let things dry out, fix the problem, and move on. I'm not surprised that I'm getting some fish eyes. The fenders have been sitting around for so long. There's probably some things down, in the primer that I just couldn't get out. So it's not a hard thing to fix. And like I said, the runs are my own fault. They're not big, they're not many. And once this base coat shrinks down, they'll come out real easy. But there's nothing I can do right now. If I was to continue, the paint job would not match the quality of the body work. So that's one of the lessons in painting, is you just can't be impatient. I'm an extremely impatient person, so that's not easy, but I've also learned by experience there's no shortcuts. You just got to stop. Thanks, Matt, for teaching me that. When you hit a spot, just wait. It's time to stop, and don't waste material. The stuff's way too expensive. So we'll do a wrap up here in a couple of minutes, and after these haze out and dry a little bit, I'll give you a video shot of what they look like, and then we'll pick this back up tomorrow, but I'll probably wrap this episode up and get it out there today. Okay, so here's what we're dealing with. There's some fish eyes right here. These wouldn't be a problem because they're underneath the trim piece. That one's a problem because it's in the middle. And then there's a couple more right up here. Where is it? Right there, you can see it. And what those are is little spots of oil that got on the paint, or on the, not on the paint, but on the primer. And the paint won't stick there. And then the second thing, and this looks a lot worse in the video than it is, but you can see I hung a curtain right there, and there's a couple other spots also where I hung some curtains. So I'll talk about that in a minute. Another one right there you can see. There's another one right there on this fender. That's actually not really a curtain, but it's a heavy spot. It's not technically a run. Okay, so a couple little minor things. That's painting. It's not an unresolvable thing, but there's a couple little fish eyes over there in that other fender as well. I didn't point those out. So I'm going to have to sand that down and get those out of there. There's 6 or 8 of them up in here, and I can't live with that. That'll really detract from this paint job. The runs, that's on me, but to give myself a little bit of an excuse, I haven't painted this Metalux base coat in 8 years or more, other than those little bitty parts, and small parts are much easier to not do this. I switched over to, I've done Sherman-Williams, I've done PPG, but I pretty much 10 years ago switched over to painting DuPont base and clear, because it's just such a better product in my opinion. And you can about put that stuff on with a fire hose and it won't run. And I set my gun like I was spraying DuPont, forgetting that this stuff is like water when it goes on. And so I was watching it when it was going on, and I wasn't thinking much of it because it looked fairly much like what DuPont does when it goes on. And it was on the front of that fender over there that I realized this isn't drying as fast as it should to keep from running. And of course I saw some runs there. So I backed the gun off more, but it wasn't quite enough. So I probably put enough material on with this coat to be 2 coats worth of base coat. So it's not the end of the world. I'm more concerned about getting the fish eyes out, because those can be a real problem. But there's plenty of spots on the car itself when I was painting it that I had to stop, sand those out, and in that case what I actually did was force dry it and just kept on going. But with the fish eyes, I'm going to have to wait. So I'm going to get the heat fired up in here, let it get up to 80 degrees for a while, bake that for a few hours. I probably could come out and sand this stuff out tonight later on, but being as I have to clear it within a couple of hours after basing it anyway, I'm just going to wait till tomorrow. I've got to take my Hemi truck in tomorrow, get some brakes put on the back. We'll do the brakes myself, but I don't have any spot to put it in the shop right now. So I'm going to take it up to the local auto shop and get my buddy Mike to put some brakes on it for me. And then when I get home, I'll work on getting this sanded out more and we'll get some clear coat on these tomorrow unless the weather does something that I'm not planning on. So I believe I said this was episode 32 of My Car Shop 47 Ford Street Rod Project. This is the way painting goes, and I've learned just be patient, and you'll cause more work for yourself if you try to get through it, especially painting in a very crude environment like this. I know that. You just have to take your time. If you want to turn out show quality work, you don't have to have the greatest tools. I'm using cheap ATD guns, working in a building here that is far from ideal. I've had much better places to paint. And so each time you run into a problem, you just have to stop, regroup, come up with another plan, and move forward. And plus, I don't have a ton of the base coat left, so I want to be careful not to lose material, because then I'll be having to color match, and that can be a problem as well, and switch over to a different brand of paint. Plus, it's expensive. I went up and bought a half a pint of hardener for the clear coat because I didn't have enough, or I wasn't sure I had enough, and I didn't want to get into running the clear and then run out. Last time I bought it was $15. It was $35 for a half pint of the. So I priced the quart of the fast clear, and I think it was $80 for the material. So $130, $120 for a quart of clear coat and hardener for it is just crazy. The prices on this stuff is just getting nuts. So anyway, went down a little bunny trail there, but not the end of the world. The body work is fantastic. I couldn't be happier. I see a couple little minor things that I missed. As good as the rest of the car by far. These things are going to look outstanding. I might give my buddy Matt a call tonight. He'll already know that if he sees this. And just talk about those fish eyes and how he would suggest that I work on getting those out. I got some ideas, but like I said, I don't do this every day. So there you go. Thanks for watching this episode. I really appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you hit the bell and hit that, be notified about everything. Then every time I put something out, you'll get a notification. Got some great stuff coming. New show intro that is just about done. Got a little voiceover work to do. I'm excited to get that out. I was hoping to have it done for this episode, but it didn't happen. So anyway, thanks for watching My Car Shop. Rock on.